What if I told you that your animal knows things about you that no one has ever said out loud? Not your friends, not your family, not even you consciously. They know your strengths, your unspoken grief where your heart hurts, your unfinished soul lessons. And many times they came into your life because of those very things. So today, we're going to explore what your animal knows about you and why that knowing matters more than you might ever realize. Before we go any further, though, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about what your animal knows because they watch you all day. It's not about training, behavior, or observation. This is about soul level knowing. Animals don't meet us through stories and roles and surface identity. They meet us beneath all of that in the emotional body, the energetic field, and the place where truth lives before words, the heart. That's why animals often reflect parts of us we didn't even realize were asking to be seen. They were kind of hidden from us. And when we understand that relationship, it starts to look very different. One of the first things that animals tune into is who we are beneath our coping. Your animal doesn't respond to who you present as. They respond to who you are when no one's watching, when you're tired, when you're trying to hold things together. They know how much you carry, how often you push through, and how deeply you feel even when you downplay it. We can't ever do that to animals, right? I see this all the time. That anxious dog that often lives with someone who's been hypervigilant for years, the withdrawn animal that is frequently bonded with a person who learned early on in life that it was safer to pull inward and kind of hide. This isn't blame at all, it's resonance. Your animal knows what you've normalized and what's been quietly asking to soften. And once you start seeing that, you begin to notice something else. Animals don't just notice our patterns, they reflect the ones we haven't integrated yet. And that's where mirroring often gets misunderstood. Mirroring isn't punishment at all. It's not your animal saying, "You're doing something wrong." No, mirroring is really good information to have. They're such good teachers because animals reflect the emotional patterns we've adapted to, the beliefs we learned early on, and the energies we learned to live around instead of through. So, very often, your animal is holding a mirror to boundaries, uh, ones you struggle to keep, grief you never had space to process, or sensitivity you were taught to downplay and minimize. And they don't mirror to expose you. No, they mirror to walk with you as something inside you becomes ready to shift. And that's when they show up, actually. And it actually reminds me of something that I lived through with my dog, Mikey. Mikey was a big black lab, street smart, easygoing, athletic. Mikey could leap into the air and catch a frisbee without even thinking about it. We had the best time out there playing with all the ones that were in his group. But over time, I started to notice some small changes. His gait seemed a little off. In the way he would lay down became careful, like calculated, almost like he was trying to avoid something that might hurt. And I remember sitting on the floor near him, watching the rise and the fall of his breath, listening for any change. My body was tight, my attention was locked on him, and that's when I started getting anxious. I hovered. I watched him constantly. I kept scanning for what might be wrong, wondering what I was missing, if it's something important. Did I need to take him to the vet? So one day, he started literally going in circles over and over again, like he just couldn't get comfortable and he couldn't stop it. And the more he circled, the more anxious I became. Like, Mikey, Mikey, are you okay? And the more anxious I became, the more anxious he became because he didn't actually know what was wrong, and he figured if I didn't know, then we were in big trouble. All he knew was I was worried. We were literally amplifying each other's anxiety about the unknown. My nervous system was scanning for danger, danger, and his was responding to mine. Eventually, Mikey was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, which answered a lot of the behavior. And what struck me wasn't just the diagnosis, but what it symbolized. If you think about it, it's a lack of flexibility, restricted movement, difficulty finding balance, um, not as blame and not as cause, but as information, right? Because that was a season in my life where I was also gripping really tightly, embracing, trying to control what couldn't yet be known. So once I softened, once I trusted the process a little more, his body began to settle too. And that experience stayed with me because it showed me that animals don't just mirror our emotions, they often reflect the place we're actually being asked to grow next. And this is where we move beyond mirroring and into meaning, because animals don't just reflect who we are, they arrive carrying this lesson our soul is ready to learn. And animals don't come into our lives randomly. You will hear me say that over and over. They arrive at juncture points in your life, and theirs too, actually. Your animal often knows what phase of growth you're in, what your soul is asking to learn next, and what quality you're being invited to embody. They're very wise. Some animals come to teach presence. Others teach patience, trust, rest, surrender. They all teach unconditional love, right? Some teach grief, not as a punishment, but as a doorway into deeper awareness. And sometimes the lesson isn't about doing anything differently. It's really about becoming more honest with yourself. Your animal already knows the truth you're circling, even if you haven't named it yet. So it's deep. And the next piece I want to offer is the most tender because, many people feel more understood by their animal than by any human they've ever known. Have you felt that? I know I have. That sense of being deeply seen, deeply understood is not accidental. Animals are exquisitely attuned to emotional nuance and energetic shifts and parts of us that were overlooked and dismissed or rushed. Your animal often sees the child in you who adapted early, the caregiver who overgives, the part of you that longs to just rest and be held or just be met. And instead of asking you to explain it, they simply stay. That presence alone can be profoundly healing, even if we don't consciously know why. We don't need to consciously know why. And here's what many people don't realize at first. Your animal doesn't just reflect you, they activate you. Through loving them, you soften. You open your heart in places that often have felt very guarded. You listen more deeply to them and, in turn, to yourself. Many people discover intuition and emotional depth, spiritual awareness, or even a sense of purpose because of their relationship with that animal. Mm. Your animal knows the version of you that was always there, waiting. It's like we're unwrapping a present, and their love becomes the invitation. So I want to offer you just a quiet reflection. You don't need to answer this out loud or even right now. Maybe it'll come later. Just when you do, notice what arises. So, what does my animal bring out in me that no one else does? Who do I become when I'm with them? Hmm. What part of me feels the safest in their presence? That's not coincidence. That's really good soul information. Your animal doesn't need you to be perfect. They certainly don't need you to fix yourself. They see you as perfect already. They already know who you are, and they choose to walk with you. They chose the relationship with you. The relationship is the message. The mirror is the medicine, and the love is the doorway. If this resonated, let me know in the comments, what do you feel that your animal has helped you see about yourself? What do you know that you wouldn't have without them? And if you want to explore this connection more deeply, I'm all in, and I'll be sharing more teachings on how animals act as mirrors and guides and soul companions, both here and beyond this life. You know, because when we listen closely with our hearts, our animals tell us the truth we were always ready to hear.